Greetings, friends. This is Bill Fitzgerald with another screencast on how to prepare for the Foreign Service exam. As I promised, I'll show you how and where you should go register for the test. Again, the logistical part of the test is not very difficult, but the important part, the important question you have to answer on this is, of course, what career track you've chosen. And that's a big decision and a very personal decision. But I've gotten onto the Pearson View, or you can go to Pearson View /FSOT/ and that'll take you straight to the Pearson View site, or you can go through careers.state.gov. In any case, the big notice here is a change about a year ago when the State Department discontinued the biographical information questionnaire, and they've put in something called the situational judgment test. And I'll be able to give you some information on the situational judgment test as we go farther into the preparation, farther in to what I think you should be studying and preparing for the test to pass it. Registering for the test is straightforward. Like I said, it's a logistical exercise. Now, I've already created an account here. Let's see if this works. Yes, and you'll be creating a test. And when you get, and you've created, they'll pop you into this section, which is clearly, you don't want to go Consular Fellows Program. It's something completely different. You want to go into the FSOT, the Foreign Service Officer Selection portion. And you will you have to fill out something called an Eligibility Verification form. And then in late August, I'm not going to take the test. I'm not allowed to. But it will kick you, the eligibility verification will kick you into other names, overseas experience, special skills, and I put languages down. You could put languages down, or you have a black belt in karate, or you really hate math. I don't know. It's all sort of open. Anything that you think would help your application, I suppose. Where did you hear about the Foreign Service? Have you ever taken the Foreign Service Officer test? Yes, I put. Select the Department of State student program in which you have participated or are currently participating. Have you participated in the virtual internship? Have you actually been in an internship? Have you been overseas in an internship? That's something you could put down too, of course, under special skills, that you've lived in a developing country for X number of years, or that you've visited France and spent a semester overseas in France or Italy or the Democratic Republic of Congo. I don't know. And here's the big one. Select your career track. I'm going to hit the question mark. Acquire expertise in local. Oh, it actually still continues to give you help in deciding which one. By checking, and they actually have you go next, and they want to see you check this box. I officially acknowledge that my career track, my selected career track, is accurate. Then you go through language, education. I put University of Chicago, a little bit of master's for Boston U. Select a foreign language, and then they ask you to rate your foreign language. If you're not familiar with this, it is how the Foreign Service rates languages from elementary to functionally native. I would say my speaking in French is probably a 3, but my reading is probably a 4. Spanish, again, I haven't used it in so long, but I'll still give myself a 3 because, if I'm speaking with someone who speaks Spanish, I can certainly understand. And also the reading proficiency. But unless I've had a couple of beers, my speaking is probably going to be a lot weaker than my reading and comprehension. I put my work experience, and you should put all your work experience down. This is basically like filling out the SF-71 if you've done that before. Other personal information, your ethnicity. No, I'm not Hispanic or Latino. This is really important. Again, I'm a big proponent of diversity in the Foreign Service, if only because we are a multicultural country, a multi-ethnic country, and we should show that in our diplomats. Select your gender, how would you like to be addressed, certification. By checking this box, I certify blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm going to leave you there because that's the important stuff. Because this is when you submit your application. And I don't know what happens because I'm uncomfortable submitting, but what I imagine it goes through is it will ask for your credit card, because my understanding is if you don't, there's no charge, as I said. You pay $0 for the Foreign Service exam. However, if you don't show up at your assigned test center on the assigned day, Pearson will charge you $56. So what they're going to want from you is your credit card information so they can bill you if you don't show up. That's the price you have to pay. Again, there's no charge. If you do show up, you don't have to forfeit the $56. And also, the next sort of questions I would imagine are, what test center do you want to take it? At what time do you want to take it? And if you have disabilities, or you have, say, for instance, you can't take it on a Saturday because of religious beliefs, you could probably go through there and under special test-taking circumstances. But that's where we are now, and that's how you get into, that's the sort of, you've put the money on the mark. You're saying that you want to be a political career track, a consular career track, or an economic career track, a management career track, or a public diplomacy career track. That's the big thing that you're filling out here. And then continue. And again, if you can make that decision earlier rather than later, you'll have a better chance of picking your test center at the time you prefer. And the test centers can vary from, I noticed in mine, yes, they have a test center in Charleston, but if I don't get the Charleston test center, I have to drive 3 hours up the road and go to Myrtle Beach, which is no fun, especially on the test day. And in fact, I would recommend on your test day, if it's in your hometown, drive by and see where it is. So you're not stressed out, running late, or getting caught in traffic or something like that. You want to be as cool as you can be. But in the next screencast, I'll start talking about what you should be doing. And at the end of this, I'll close by saying there's an old saw that we in the Foreign Service always tell people is, if you want to prepare the best for the Foreign Service, you should be reading the daily New York Times or Washington Post. Personally, I think the New York Times is a whole lot better than the Washington Post these days, although I have my go-to columnists in the Washington Post, Eugene Robinson, David Ignatius, and Michael Gerson. Both are great. Washington Post probably has better Washington coverage. They seem to break a lot more stories than the New York Times on the Washington beat. But the New York Times is fabulous for not only its news reporting, but also culture, the arts, books, and they will question you. They will ask you about that on the Foreign Service test. So you should be prepared for that. You know, it runs the gamut. And the other thing to read religiously is The Economist. I'm not dissing any of our magazines here. Of course, you can read The New Yorker for excellent reporting. But The Economist is the type of writing that the Foreign Service likes, wants to see. A little bit cheeky, a little bit sexy, and that's how you're going to write. It is as much journalism as it is anything else, but journalism with an edge. Trust me, I've been a deputy assistant secretary where, you know, I was overseeing 17 countries, so I was getting cable traffic every day from 17 countries. I'll be honest with you, when I go through And I did, and I generally farmed it out to people, my office directors and stuff. But still, I'd glance through. And if you catch my eye with a pun or a joke or sort of a sexy title, I will read your cable. All the other stuff, if you're just reporting the news to me, I'm going to leave that for the office director. But occasionally something will catch my eye, and that's what you're trying to. I know it seems ethereal, but it's really something you're trying to go for. And trust me, in your essay, your 5-paragraph essay, you get 30 minutes for on the Foreign Service test, and I'll coach you. I'll give you ideas on how I would approach it. But again, these folks are going to be reading hundreds of essays from you. So you're going to want to stand out a little bit. And you're going to want to be a little bit cheeky, a little bit on the edge, a little bit funny. That's what I would go for, frankly. Now remember, your essay's not even going to be tested unless you pass the situational judgment test and the job knowledge test, which that's the hurdle you have to read. They won't even test they won't even judge, they won't even correct or go through your essay unless you pass those big. And English expression and English usage, which always was my bête noire. But in any case, next time I'll be back to discuss how to prepare. I mean, beyond the Washington Post and the New York Times, beyond the Economist, how can you prepare for the job knowledge and all the assorted categories? And I'll also be providing in a separate screencast how to approach the essay. I mean, yes, it's the high school 5-paragraph essay, but how can you nail it? So for now, this is Bill Fitzgerald. Thanks again for watching, and if you find these interesting, share it with friends, and also click this the subscribe button that shows up, as well as not only the subscribe, but hit the bell so you know when I've posted a new screencast. Thanks very much.